In this era of coronavirus, I want to do a very serious deep dive show today with a lot of information. As my mother used to say to us when we were growing up, if she had a lot of things to say, she'd line the kids up and she'd say, listen fast, because she wanted to go through a bunch of things. That's what I'm going to try to do today. I want to start in the first five to just make some overarching points and then play a couple of clips from you. For you. Number one, about this coronavirus and America's reaction to the coronavirus. The numbers do not justify the reaction. That's my first point. Second point, leftists in America and our opponents around the world, our enemies around the world, from China to Russia and others, are enjoying seeing America weakened. The problem flowing from the shutdown of the economy is not just economic, it's not just lost jobs and lost paychecks. It is a weakening of America that the leftists in Washington and around the country and around the world are salivating over. Number three, there is very much in evidence a vaccine globalist mission. I've dived way more into this topic, and I want to share with you the ideas about how we are, in some ways, rejecting what seems to be working, what doctors around the world and in America are saying is working, in order to push the vaccine globalist agenda, which, even if you think vaccines are the best thing since sliced bread, is still a matter of interfering with America's freedom, interfering with the freedom of individuals to pursue the kind of healthcare they want. And number four, finally, America's leaders need the citizens to lead. We are needed in America, we citizens, we activists, to step up and lead. There is a tidal wave of fear, distortion, and manipulation, and it ends up in this precious country ignoring and downplaying things like hydroxychloroquine and other possible solutions to our detriment. But let me start the first five. And those are my big points. I'm going to come back to throughout the show several times. Then this first five, I wanted to share with you two clips when I say that America is being manipulated. The first is a woman. I want to have Matt the Wonderful, whom I deeply appreciate, doing this show from his home, as I'm doing the show from my home during this shutdown. But I want to hear you have Matt play for you a video. This was put up by CBS News. It is an individual woman, a nurse, talking about what she encountered at a hospital where she was working with respect to and trying to treat COVID-19 patients, people who contracted coronavirus and contracted COVID-19. I first will play the video and then we'll talk about it.
America is not prepared and nurses are not being protected. I quit my job today. I went into work and I was assigned to a COVID patient on an ICU unit that has been converted to a designated COVID unit. None of the nurses are wearing masks, not even surgical masks, in the hallways when they're giving report to each other. I had my own N95 mask. I told my manager, I understand we're short on supplies, but let me protect myself. Let me feel safe. I have family that I have to come home to, and the way things are looking, this isn't gonna get any better. America is not prepared, and nurses are not being protected.
People, that was put out. That's a woman, obviously a real woman, who made that video, put out by CBS News. They put the music behind it, the dramatic music, and the woman sobbing. And when I tell you in this first five, America is being manipulated, you need to know that that video is a complete farce. It is not true. There is, as you'll hear as we go along describing why I say it's not true, it took people checking into it about 5 minutes on social media to uncover that this is a completely false story. Number one, the woman she did go back to work. The only true part is that she went into work as a nurse for 1 day. She'd previously been a nurse. She took time off. She came back after a year, came into work for one day, brought her own mask with her, the mask that she wanted to use. And the hospital has a system that they wanted the nurses to use the mask that they have. They had plenty of masks on hand, plenty of masks available for nurses and other people dealing with the COVID-19 patients. This is a woman who she had, as a one day she quit. She had previous to this posting of this hysterical video, she had posted on her own social media. She was suffering from anxiety and bipolar depression, and she was already feeling defeated, even before she went into her one day of work or the day she went into work. She is now backtracking her story. She's saying, well, actually, there were plenty of masks. Everybody dealing with coronavirus patients, COVID-19 patients, had masks, but she was just upset because she wanted to use her own. And the hospital, quite understandably, I'm going to guess, said, you know what, actually, we have a system here. Everyone uses this. So, but understand the level of manipulation involved by the decision of CBS to decide to put this out as their tweet. What you saw was a tweet by CBS News, who professionalized this woman's lie, farce, and to make her seem credible. And the reason I am telling you why this matters so much is because CBS News is invested in the agenda to urge people to believe that there is a crisis of the level that this nurse was complaining about, that this nurse actually went to work in a hospital and all the nurses on the floor with the COVID-19 patients had no masks. Obviously, this plays into the left's agenda. CBS News puts this out. It takes, as I said, 5 minutes for some researcher online on Twitter to realize what the real story with this woman was, who's now backtracked. Second little clip I want to play in today's first five is a gentleman named, and I use that term loosely, Ezekiel Emanuel. If you're recognizing his name, he is Rahm Emanuel's brother. Ezekiel Emanuel is the one who helped write Obamacare, very much a leftist. But the important thing to remember about him as you listen to what I'm about to play is he is the one who said, with respect to Obamacare, that what they came to understand about America's medical system is that there needs to be more generosity on the part of Americans, older Americans, to stop taking medication, to get to a certain age. The age he floated was 75. Once you're 75, said Ezekiel Emanuel, stop wasting resources. You should not be using up the scarce medical resources we have in this country. Just seek palliative care, pain-killing care, and beside that, stop using resources, vowing he himself was going to do that because this is how he sees the medical system. This is a cold-blooded, evil guy. But I want you to now hear what he had to say in response in an interview. He's a doctor, by the way, in an interview related to the coronavirus epidemic we're experiencing right now. Here you have Ezekiel Emanuel.
COVID-19 virus. It threatens all of us. But while we are all experiencing the same pandemic, we are not experiencing it in the same way. The first dividing line is whether you or someone you love has gotten sick. Many Americans have not yet seen firsthand what devastation a positive test can inflict. Another dividing line is whether you have a job that lets you stay at home, working as you juggle childcare and video chats. 60 million Americans are still out there, not sheltering in place, and instead tirelessly working to keep everything going for the rest of us. You keep the electricity flowing and the internet running, food and groceries moving. You are putting your own health on the line to ensure the rest of us are living as normally as possible. And then there are the tens of millions of Americans who have lost jobs and businesses, or who fear that they're just about to. Your anxiety about the virus is coupled with worry over having a paycheck, covering the mortgage, keeping the lights on, and buying food. Realistically, COVID-19 will be here for the next 18 months or more. We will not be able to return to normalcy until we find a vaccine or effective medications. I know that's dreadful news to hear. How are people supposed to find work if this goes on in some form for a year and a half? Is all that economic pain worth trying to stop COVID-19? The truth is, we have no choice. If we prematurely end that physical distancing and the other measures, keeping it at bay, deaths could skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands, if not a million. We cannot return to normal until there's a vaccine. Conferences, concerts, sporting events, religious services, dinner in a restaurant, none of that will resume until we find a vaccine, a treatment, or a cure. One thing I've learned as a cancer doctor is that it's wrong to paint an overly rosy picture in order to maintain a patient's hope. It's wrong because it fails. It's false. Biology and disease are formidable opponents that inevitably tell us the truth. We cannot relieve the oppression of this pandemic until we are realistic. We need to prepare ourselves for this to last 18 months or so and for the toll that it will take. We need to develop a long-term solution based on those facts. It has to account for what we are losing while this fight goes on.
And that, my friends, is Ezekiel Emanuel. Let me summarize what he had to say. He is suggesting that in America, because we have the coronavirus epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, going on right now, that Americans should agree that all of us are going to continue to live under shelter in place, only essential businesses open, no non-essential travel out of your home rules until the vaccine is ready, which may be, as he says, between 12 and 18 months away. And I'm going to close out this first 5 by saying actually a little note for production. We're doing this from home. I'm very grateful that we have Matt Stoker, my wonderful producer, doing this from his home. We didn't have the sound working from me in that interview. I've heard it enough times. I know what he said. We are going to our guest next. We are very, very fortunate today. We have Trevor Loudon joining us. I'm going to introduce him in a moment. I want to be sure you understand that if we have trouble with the sound, I'll let you know that. But to close out the first 5, I want to make clear that people use the expression the coronavirus is a hoax. That is not true. There is a virus. We have a huge job to do to understand how it got started in China. Intentionally, non-intentionally, all the wrongdoing happened along the way is all something we'll figure out. But right now, the way the coronavirus problem in America is being handled is very much an intrusion on, an attack on liberty in America. And there is a need for citizens to follow this in more detail than maybe we have been, to understand that if we continue down the path that Ezekiel Emanuel is suggesting, we will simply destroy America. So, and that, my friends, is today's first 5.